Okay, so tonight is kind of an exciting moment because we've just completed today the Vishara book. We've been waiting to get a forward from an interesting Indian lady from Delhi, and it arrived today. Very beautiful, very much supporting our Vichara book. So yeah, we have a few more days of last minute things, but the book is complete. I can't hardly believe it. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that there are one or two of you on the screen tonight who are still considering you might come to join us in India. So you can still decide. We have 3 places left, and we have 4 people that say they're maybes. So if you're becoming not a maybe, then you might want to talk to Indira quickly. And the other thing I'd like to tell you, if you didn't know this, after the retreat, I will be giving 2 weeks of public meetings in Tiruvannamalai every morning from 11 to 1. So you, as an alternative, you could choose to come to India for those 2 weeks. And you could also, if you wanted, follow me to Rishikesh. I'll be 2 weeks also in Rishikesh. So there's a 4 week alternative kind of retreat if you want, or you could come to 1, 2 weeks or the other 2 weeks. So the one in Tiru starts on the 10th of February until the 23rd of February for 2 weeks. And the one in Rishikesh starts on March the 3rd until the 16th of March. So if it doesn't work for you in the retreat, you might like to have a more kind of freestyle and kind of be in India and then come in the mornings to the meetings. Of course, the whole, how can I say, the whole intensity is different because in my public meetings, I'm mainly answering questions from the people who are in the meetings. And in the retreat, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, haha. So but this is much more intense, of course. But yeah, can be an alternative for some people. Okay, good. So would somebody like to share about their experience in the meditation? Perhaps Fred, would you be okay to do that so I get to know you a bit?
Hello, John. Hello, everybody. For me, I just go quiet. There doesn't seem to be any specific thing that I focus on. I do come out of it a couple of times. I hear noises in the house, maybe the wind, maybe something else, but just generally, it's quiet. It's a nice feeling. There's no noise going on really for that period when I'm there, but yeah, that's really all I can answer.
Very good. Yeah. You've got a pretty amazing picture behind you. Is that something you took yourself?
Oh no, sorry, took that off the web. Some of the other satsangs I've been going to, they all had different pictures, and I thought, okay, my room that I'm in is quite boring, and I've got no control over the objects in there, so it looks a bit strange. So I thought I put this picture, which keeps me in a way a little bit linked to Ramana.
Okay, good. And you've been to Peru? Have you been to Arunachala? No, you haven't.
No, I'm literally I've been doing this for about 6 months, and when I say doing it, I've just been following some of the YouTube videos, which are lovely as background talks and thinking, and that's great during the daytime. And I've been going to some satsangs during the week, 2 or 3 times a week. And
Where
just
where do
listen.
you live? Where do you live? In London?
Initially, I was London. Then I'm in Hampshire, and at the moment I'm in Dorset. I'm looking for a place to live actually. So it has been a bit of a stressful time, and I'm trying to balance that out with perhaps using this to
Right.
get some sort of normal feeling.
I was just wondering where you could go to three different satsangs in a week, but maybe you're going to the same one, are you?
Well, sorry, yes. The Melbourne one has obviously in a different time zone, but it actually works quite well because it's a Friday night, a Sunday night, and a Wednesday morning. And
Right,
for them,
right.
it's like the opposite times a day. And then the UK one seems to start up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. UK time.
So
And then
you're not going to the physical meetings, you're going on the internet. I see.
exactly,
Okay. Okay. Well,
exactly.
it's okay. It's okay. I
Mm.
just wondered how you could go to three in a week. So I thought you must be in London, you know.
Ah,
But
right. No, no, sorry.
okay, good. Okay, let's see what happens. So, would somebody else like to share? Perhaps somebody else I don't know so well. Hmm, let's see. You're all rather familiar. Okay. So, who would like to volunteer? I won't volunteer anybody. Okay, Brett. Brett's not going to play his song for us tonight, but it's sometime in the future. He's pretty
Yeah.
English. You know, you may be Brett. You may be thinking I'm English because I was originally English, but you may get a shock when you really meet me because I'm not really so English anymore.
No, I, the impression I get from you, John, is that you don't actually exist. Would that be fair to say?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been an interesting
Okay.
meditation with you all tonight. It's the third time I've meditated today. Um, the first time was at lunchtime for 15 minutes, and then I did 45 minutes just after I ate around 4 o'clock. And that one was the most interesting. It was very quiet and very peaceful, but there was a moment there where there was just completely nothing. There was awareness, but there was nothing else. And then it was really strange because once I came out of that, it was as if thoughts were bubbling like on the surface of water, and I was under the water, which was really strange
Uh-huh.
experience, which was different to the meditation I had at around 4 o'clock, because some thoughts actually came in, and then I used self-inquiry to sort of like quieten those thoughts, to whom do the thoughts arise? To me,
Right.
who am I? And then they do go quiet again. But that 10 minutes there was that was probably the strangest, not strange sensation. It was very pleasurable, but it was as if I didn't exist just for a moment. And then it kind of like came back to the fore that it was quiet, but it was just like I was under this water, and the thoughts and the experiences were just sort of like trickling above me. It was a very odd sensation.
Right. Right. Good. Good. Okay. So maybe one more person, and then we have an interesting text tonight. I don't know Birgit so well, so maybe she would like to share. I got a note, by the way, that your daughter was coming on the meeting tonight. Is that right?
Birgit, du müsstest dein Mikrofon einmal noch anmachen. Da müsste eine Meldung auf deinem Bildschirm eigentlich sein, wo du draufklicken kannst.
Yeah, we don't hear you at the moment.
Or in the bottom left corner is maybe the microphone symbol. Can you see it? If you click on the screen once, Nataraj, maybe you can help her.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much. I'm sorry, it was the
It's
wrong
okay.
button.
No, it's always easy on these computers when you know how to do it, but when you don't know, then
Yeah,
it's impossible.
I'm not
Yeah.
very used to it. Don't worry. And yeah, I planned that my daughter will join us here, and yeah, and I can say something to the meditation.
Okay.
What I experienced is that I find it for me it's more simple when you do it like the way you did it, the 3 steps, so that I can go deeper and deeper, so to say. Yeah,
Good. Yeah.
so that's a good method for me. I didn't knew it before, and yeah, it works for me.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
And also, it's amazing how it works through this screen, because there's about 25 people who are in the meeting, and they're all on the screen, and in some strange way, there is an energy support for people's meditation. So people have often reported that, surprisingly, they found they went very quiet in this beginning meditation. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so I think we have rather a long text tonight, so I think maybe I start reading it now. So, yeah, this is a bit long, but I think it's a valuable. So Ramana was asked, which is genuine Vishara? Asking myself, who am I, every time a thought arises, or keenly investigating the problem of who I am? And Bhagwan's answer is the latter. In other words, he's saying the more important thing is keenly investigating the problem of I am. And he goes on to say, if you want to get rid of a poisonous tree, do you loop off its leaves one by one? What is the use of such an approach? In the time it takes for you to cut down one leaf, leaving multitudinous number in variety would have sprouted forth from the vicious tree. Instead, attack the poisonous root of illusion, namely, straight away. In other words, he's encouraging us to directly inquire and find out about the I. And then he was asked, but I've heard it spoken of amongst Bhagwan's devotees that Vichara, according to Bhagwan, can be compared to an aged mongoose waiting for a snake to come out of a discarded anthill that the latter happens to be using as its place of residence. This is one of the metaphors you can find in the book, actually, where he talks about a mongoose waiting outside for a snake. And the snake has got the choice between starving to death inside or coming out and getting grabbed by the mongoose. So he says, yes, the sword can be used for slicing as well as for stabbing. In the preliminary phase of practice, when thoughts rush out furiously, one after the other, Vishara is used as a tool to go on returning the mind to its native state of thought, free, pure, subjective consciousness. It is always to be practiced as and when it is discovered that the mind has strayed from its natural state. However, there is also the subsequent stage where thoughts have largely subsided. So this is actually why I've chosen this text tonight, because actually many of you in the community, but also many of you who are in the Sangha group around the community, your you're not really having a very busy mind anymore. And so in a way, you exactly come into this sort of second stage, you can say, of who am I? So now the investigation, who am I, is used to seek the mind with the mind. Use the mind to scrutinize closely what I is, rather than creating something called I and then looking at it so as for fulfilling the instruction to closely scrutinize I, seek I, whatever it might be and whether it might exist or not, without harboring notions as to its existence or non-existence. I'm trying to follow Bhagwan's instructions, but my vastness proves to be an obstacle. What can I do? So obstacles are particular repeating structures of thoughts. So in a particular day, or maybe every day, we get these thought patterns relentlessly repeating themselves through the day and coming again the next day and the next day and the next day. So we become very familiar with vastness. We become very familiar with our particular vastness. Oh, just lost my earplug. So Bhagwan's answer, never mind obstacles. Keep on going. Do not sit down or pause to moan or complain, but keep on going. The only important thing is to keep on going. If you try to take stock of progress yet to be made, you will feel alarmed, and then further progress would have become impossible. So never stop, but go on escalating. One day you will reach the summit, or rather realize that you never left it. Until then, climb relentlessly and incessantly. Do not bother about obstacles, progress, and the like. Simply and only go on scaling. So this is kind of one of the kind of very popular spiritual I don't know. It's like an advice that is somehow obvious, but it's a nevertheless advice because we can easily forget it. So our mind is very tricky and it can come back at us and we can easily get again caught up in some sort of thought pattern. So just to keep going, just to persevere, keep going, like a long distance runner. So maybe we go back to the first question and answer. And then maybe somebody would like to talk to me about this particular answer. Which is genuine Vishara? Asking myself, who am I, every time a thought arises, or keenly investigating the problem of who am I? The latter. If you want to get rid of a poisonous tree, do you loop off its leaves one by one? Instead, attack the poisonous root of illusion straight away. Somebody like to say something about that? I mean, when I look at you all sitting there in front of me, I would say that you're all advanced enough when, you know, it would be more important to investigate the who am I, the mind, how it's working, the ego, how it's working, than just repeating this who am I to stop your thoughts. And most of the people on the screen tonight, I would say, are capable of having a pretty quiet mind. Maybe not all the time, but much of the time. And so once you've achieved, you know, a relatively quiet mind, then meditation becomes much less important, and inquiring into the nature of the I takes over as the main effort. Somebody like to say something about that? So you're all very hot tonight. So if you're not going to respond, then I'm not going to respond either, and I'm going to have my dinner. I find it amazing that you can all sit there without having any interest in this situation, this question, you know. This is exactly, I've chosen this exactly for most of you, and most of you don't want to even respond. Okay.
Hello. So,
It's
I
nice. We
started.
have one good girl in the community. So when she sees me a bit pissed off, she has to jump in and be the good girl. You see. Okay, good girl.
Yeah. So for the Vichara and the self-inquiry, so Indira gave this which is really helping to start in the shower and in the toothbrushing, because this is something I'm doing regularly and every day. And so I started to do this in the shower and while toothbrushing, and then the rest of the day I try to do it too. But for example, today I have my period, and yeah, I forgot it a lot, but not all the time. Sometimes I remembered, but so who is doing all of this? I get lost in the work or sometimes in the homework, and yeah. But yeah, it really helps to start the day with it. For me, this is really helpful.
Okay. Well, I think actually this is actually good general advice that everybody should find their own way. You can easily go days without even doing self-inquiry unless you don't have some little toothbrushing reminder. So I think for everybody to make their own way. But here, of course, in the community, we have a period in the morning and at lunchtime when that would be an ideal time to do self-inquiry, actually. So, I mean, I would recommend that there's a little bit of a shift in the community towards investigating your I when you're sitting quietly together with the rest of the group for half an hour or so. That's an ideal situation for investigating about this I.
And also, I noticed a shift between this, who am I, asking myself, and it was more, did it? But I didn't know.
Sorry,
I
more
somehow,
what? So I didn't catch what you said. More
I did,
what?
I asked myself it. I asked the question myself, but somehow at some point there was a switch where I really wanted to know it more. So in the beginning, I noticed it was more the mind, I'm doing it, but then it
Right.
switched to really more this, I really want to know. Yeah,
Right.
this I
Right.
noticed from the beginning when I started.
I mean, you're talking about when you started it, you know, a year ago, or you're talking about when you started each day when you're brushing your teeth?
No, when I started to do it, since I'm, so yeah.
When did you start to do it? 3 or 4 months ago.
Since I moved, since I came.
Okay.
So in year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Somebody else like to share something? Okay, Parvati. Before you start, Parvati, I think on behalf of the whole celebrating a group over the weekend, you might like to know that your moment is one of the most popular moments of the whole 2 hours theatre. You probably know what I'm referring to.
Yes. Yeah. I just noticed when I ask this, or when I go like, who am I? There is no interest to know this. There is just space.
Right.
There is not somebody who wants to know it.
Right.
It is just like an ordinary space, I would say. It's also not, whoa, it's more just like this. I like to share this. I just noticed when she said, Ananda, I want to know it more. Who am I? In this question, I noticed there is nobody who wants to know it more. That's in this context, I would say.
But during the normal daily 2 meditation periods or 2 sitting quietly periods, are you spending that time to just sit quietly, or are you spending it to investigate this whole thing of the ego and the I?
Especially when I'm in the nature, there it comes more that that there is no separation. Something like this. I can say, if I look, how is it when I'm at the beach, or that is more, there's less separation.
Yeah.
So I could maybe describe it. And it's anyway very quiet. The mind is very quiet. No? There's always this ordinary feeling.
I mean, do you notice, for example, that compared to being here in Germany and Hitler, now that you're down in Spain and that you're in this beautiful paradise garden, the sun is shining and the sky's blue, I mean, does it make it easier for you, do you think, to feel this emptiness, this silence inside?
Yes, for sure, the beauty supports it very much. No, because it's everything everywhere. It is so beautiful, and this makes it, I would say, easier than if you drive on the autobahn. Something, and just a lot of nature also.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Maybe we move on. Is there anybody else on this first topic, and then we'll move on to the second? Okay, Lavanya. Oh. Yeah, if you say something, Lavanya.
Ja, also als ich angefangen habe, mir die Frage zu stellen, da war das so, als wenn sich diese Frage nicht meinem Verstand gestellt hätte.
Can I get a translation, Indira? Who is translating tonight?
Indira?
I think she's not there because she announced at the beginning that no. Can you translate?
Hello,
please?
hello.
Yeah, we're waiting
I'm
for your.
translating, but I all needs to. Oh, Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can
Yes,
hear
yes.
you, but
We
we
can
don't
hear
hear
you.
your
You can
translation.
hear me. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I'm talking the whole time about the sentence. Can you repeat it, Lavan?
Als ich angefangen habe, mir die Frage zu stellen, wer bin ich, da hat sich direkt von Anfang an diese Frage nicht meinem Verstand gestellt. Also ich habe gar nicht angefangen, über diese Frage nachzudenken.
So when I started myself these questions, I didn't apply this question to my mind. I started to think about it.
Sondern das war direkt, ich weiß gar nicht, womit man das vergleichen kann. Doch ein bisschen so, wie wenn man denkt, man hat sein Portemonnaie verloren und man kriegt diesen Adrenalin-Moment so. Also diese Frage hat direkt sowas Ähnliches in mir ausgelöst, dass es so ganz, mich so ganz tief im Inneren berührt hat. Aber es gab gar nicht die Option, irgendwie eine Antwort. Also das war ganz abwegig, dass es darauf eine intellektuelle
So it
Antwort.
was a bit like as yeah, it was very far away to intellectual answer. Like if first you get a sort of adrenaline hit inside. It was more like and not waiting for an intellectual answer.
Right, right. But I mean, you're definitely somebody who is pretty quiet because you've been doing different spiritual practices and meditation for so many years. So for you, it would be much more important to investigate the nature of the ego, I think, because we need
Also du
to
bist ja
come
eine,
to.
die schon, du bist ja
We
jemand, der
need to.
schon sehr, sehr still ist. Du hast ja schon viele Jahre der Meditation gemacht. Also für dich wäre wichtig, die Natur des Egos zu erforschen.
We need to come to very clear moment when we see the amazing illusion that we are living with all the time since years. It's such a shocking moment when you realize that everything you believe to be so is not so. And particularly what's not
Also wir müssen
so
zu diesem,
is you interrupt me, then I can't speak, Indira. You have to wait. Maybe you just, I don't know what we do. Anyway, okay, I try to remember to not speak so much. What was I saying? Could you translate for me? Maybe you can tell me what I was going to say.
so you have to come to this moment where you really see that the eye is an illusion. Also du musst zu diesem Augenblick kommen, wo du wirklich sehen kannst, dass das eine Illusion ist.
And one of the things that's a bit shocking with Ramana, for example, in my own case, I quite like my life. I like a lot of things in my life, and I'm pretty satisfied with what existence has given to me.
Also was ein bisschen schockierend ist bei Ramana, zum Beispiel bei mir ist das so, ich liebe mein Leben eigentlich. Ich finde die Dinge, die in meinem Leben vor sich gehen, wirklich sehr gut. Was da so alles passiert, fühle ich mich sehr erfüllt mit.
But several times in this new book, Ramana is telling us very clearly that we should hate us, the samsara of our life. And if our life is kind of... Go on.
Aber mehrmals in diesem Buch sagt Ramana, dass wir das Leben hassen sollten.
So, in a way, it's a bit shocking, but he also makes the point that if you have a kind of terrible life, in a way, it's much easier to give that up than if your life works very well.
Das ist ein bisschen schockierend, wenn du ein schlechtes Leben hast. Es ist viel leichter, das aufzugeben, als ein Leben zu nähren.
So this process of investigating and coming to see that the personal thing, the attachment to somebody who's me, I, personal stuff. This is an enormous block to living in how can I say, living from moment to moment, for example. And so I think what he's insisting, which you can feel, is that it's much more, there's much more to do than just asking, who am I? Because it's so easy for the mind to kind of catch this who am I question and make it into a sort of intellectual thing.
Also es gibt viel mehr aufzugeben, ja. Also man muss wirklich dieses Unpersönliche wirklich fassen und da gehört viel mehr zu als nur dieses Who am I, weil es ist sehr leicht, wer bin ich, zu intellektualisieren.
I think it's always the same with whatever particular practice we have. If we're not careful, it can become a repetition. We just keep repeating, keep on doing it, but we're not really enough consciously doing it, if that makes sense.
Also es ist Gefahr mit jeder Praxis, die man hat, dass man die einfach wiederholt, aber nicht die bewusst genug macht. Wenn du verstehst, was ich damit meine.
Ja.
I mean, he's saying, in the preliminary phase of practice, so when you're a beginner, when you've got a lot of thoughts rushing all the time, then Vichara is used as a tool to go on returning the mind to its native state of thought-free, pure, subjective consciousness. So just returning you to your true nature, you can say.
Also er sagt, am Anfang, wenn man damit beginnt, dann ist Vichara dazu da, einen zurück zu seiner wahren Natur zu bringen, sozusagen.
So then he's saying it's always to be practiced as and when it is discovered that the mind has strayed away from this natural state.
Also es geht dann darum zu erkennen, dass der Verstand sich von diesem natürlichen Zustand wegbewegt hat.
Ja.
Ja.
Und dass man ihn dann halt immer wieder zurückbringt.
I mean, am I right, Lavanya, that for you, you don't have a torrent of thoughts most days, I would guess.
Ja.
Also ich würde glauben, dass bei dir das so ist, dass du keinen Gedankensturm jeden Tag hast.
Nee.
So your prime candidate for what he's suggesting is that the to a much deeper inquiry.
Jetzt ist die Verbindung abgebrochen. Ich habe das nicht verstanden. Er hat gesagt, du bist eine sehr gute Kandidatin für das, was er sagt.
Ich habe es auch nicht verstanden.
Can you translate, Indira?
The connection failed a bit. The connection failed a bit in what you said, yeah? We both didn't understand it because the connection was interrupted.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I don't remember. I said 2 minutes ago. So, okay. I mean, basically, he's saying that for somebody like you who is already not having a very busy mind, it's not, you don't have an issue with that. You have, maybe or not, you still can be caught up in being somebody. I don't know you very well, so I can't quite judge with you if you really got it or whether you still get caught up in being somebody.
Also bei jemandem wie dir, der schon einen sehr stillen Verstand hat, Da kann es dennoch sein, dass du dich ab und zu mal immer wieder verwickelst, dass du jemand bist, eine Person bist. Ich kann das teilen, dazu kenne ich dich nicht gut genug. Ist es, wenn man sich in sowas Persönliches verwickelt?
Ja, ja, klar, das ist schon noch so, aber seitdem ich bei euch bin, wird es weniger.
Sometimes it is like to you, this
Sorry, I don't understand your translation, Indira.
is that, of course, sometimes it is like this. Since I'm coming to you, this is less.
Okay, okay. So I mean, I suggest that next time we're in a retreat together, you perhaps should talk a little bit more.
Also ich würde nächstes Mal, wenn wir zusammen im Retreat sind, dass du dann etwas mehr redest.
I will
I mean,
try.
when you stay silent, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be silent, but when you stay all the time silent, it's hard for me to really tune in and understand exactly where you are. You know,
Yes, I understand.
it's a sort of subtle thing because when you're a beginner, when somebody is a beginner, then I want to encourage them to be quiet. You know. So, but when you're more advanced as you are, I need to somehow get an insight, kind of where you are in being advanced, you know, and then maybe it gives me a little bit more to advise you, particularly you.
Yes.
So for that, you have to expose yourself.
Ja.
And
Also
you
wenn
and
die
me
Leute
can
Anfänger sind, ne, dann ist ermutige dich dir, aber wenn man jetzt fortgeschrittener ist, so wie du, ist das wichtig, dass du dich auch zeigst, sodass ich wirklich mehr so reintun kann, wo du dich befindest.
And you're a very quiet couple, so it's hard to exactly know where you are.
Ihr seid ja sehr stilles Paar und es ist schwierig, wirklich zu wissen, wo ihr da seid.
Okay, so is there somebody else like to? Whoops. Okay. Anybody else like to talk a little bit about this? So I mean, there are one or two people, there's one or two people here who are maybe more beginners than Lavanya is. And it may be that for some of you, you're in the habit of asking this question, who am I, when your mind is busy. So for sure that is a big help. But that's not the main job. You know, the main job is to really tune in to who you are, who am I? And the answer to this is nothing, you see. And the answer we've been trained in the society is that we are somebody with a name, with a profession, with relationship, perhaps with a family, all these things, you know, which we identify with. To find out, you know, if that's really true, that requires a lot of investigation, actually. And he's making it clear in the book as we go along in the book. He's making it clear you can't investigate the self. You have to investigate the not self. The self is always there, you are, and it doesn't change. You can't find it. You can't investigate it. You have to investigate what is not the self. And so maybe tonight, I don't know whether I've said all this before or whether it's a bit new tonight. I think in a way, maybe it's a little bit new tonight that he makes it clear that there is a sort of beginning phase and then a more advanced phase of self-inquiry. So in the more advanced phase, you don't need really to use it on the thoughts because anyway, you've already achieved a mind that's pretty much quiet. And there are a lot of people here who've achieved that. And there's a few of you who maybe still need to whack the thoughts, but most of you have gone beyond that, I would say. Okay. You recovered from your being stricken by COVID.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, we can hear you. We haven't seen you
Yeah.
yet. Okay,
I
now we see
wanna,
you.
yeah, I just wanted to share that tonight with this conversation, I feel very confused because I don't know if I am a beginner or not, but I don't know. But that is not important question. I think what I feel is that I need to carry on, and I
Keep
think that it's,
persevering. Keep persevering, yeah?
yeah. I mean, I have noticed a significant change, and to be honest, I have been practicing for the past 6 months, and I have been learning, and I have been incorporating all of the teachings in my daily life. Yeah, I feel very confused, to be honest, tonight.
Oh, okay, so what are you confused about?
I have been asking myself that question. I have found out that there is no real answer. When I get to that place, I feel very well, very good indeed. I find peace, but it's not permanent. So I am pulled to my daily life and my daily routines and my thoughts. And then I keep trying, of course. You know, every day I allocate half an hour in the morning, which is my best time to meditate. I would say the first 5-10 minutes is the battle, and it goes better towards the end of the meditation.
Right.
I mean, I just keep going. I'm not judging myself. I'm not saying I'm doing this rightly or wrongly. I'm just going with the flow and with the process, and
Yeah,
I
so
think that gives me happy.
yeah, so you don't have to feel disappointed by tonight's meeting. You can see that the main message is perseverance. You know, you just keep going, and you don't really have the ability to judge whether you're a beginner or you're advanced or whatever. I mean, so you just keep going. I mean, because you're interested in this, you know, particular approach to things, and you're saying
Yes.
that you can already feel after 6 months you've got some benefits. So if you've got
Yes.
benefits, you can continue out of those benefits. Yeah. And I mean, I think it happens naturally, you know, that after we've been using who am I question to get the thoughts less, get our mind much more peaceful and quiet, there's going to come a natural transmission into, sorry, it's the wrong word. There's going to be a natural movement to want to go deeper into the inquiry. It will just happen by itself. So you don't need to test yourself, you know, am I still a beginner or am I now advanced enough to, you know, it will just happen by itself, you see. It'll just happen by itself.
Yeah. That's my feeling. And it doesn't have to do anything about time or if you've been doing this for 20 years or 6 months. It's just a mystery.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Leave it as a mystery. Yeah. But for sure, when you have this inner decision to do half an hour every morning because that's your best time to do it, then that's a wonderful decision, you know. And if you keep doing it month by month, of course, you get an enormous benefit. So there's nothing wrong in what you're doing. It's completely right and completely, yeah, good. Are you recovered a bit from your COVID?
Yes, I feel much better now, but I had a few 3-4 days. It was very terrible for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
especially
do
Wednesday,
the
Thursday, and Friday.
do the doctors offer any kind of medication?
No, just to go back to my place and stay there,
Right.
drink water and rest.
Okay, so
Yeah,
water's going to become very popular, I guess.
not
Yeah.
much you can do.
Okay, good. So, okay, anybody else like to come in on the discussion? Perhaps Krishna would. He's looking rather relaxed tonight. Is that right, Krishna? You look very, I don't know the right word, but you look very, yeah, relaxed. Do you feel it inside yourself?
Very much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So something is happening for you?
It did from the point where we were meeting here in Denia. We had a little private session, and afterwards, I didn't even remember what you said, but it was so strong for me happening inside. I could watch everything from a point where I was completely silent now. It's such a beauty. I don't fall. Sometimes I come a bit out, but most of the time I'm in that. It's wonderful.
Right, right. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I'm not allowed to say this, but this is one of my one-on-one LSD trips that he's talking about. Anyway, so but you're not carrying on with the LSD, yeah? Now you don't need anything.
No. It's a bit of coffee. The rest is
Fresh air and sun and gardening. But you
good
know,
word.
when we were having that meeting, I mean, you told me at the beginning something like, "I've got nothing to talk about." You remember that?
Yes.
I've got nothing to talk about. And I mean, you weren't particularly talking a lot, but there was something to talk about. And then when I brought your focus to that aspect, because that aspect was something you really didn't need anymore, you know? It was something that was put onto you by your family actually when you were small. And it was so clearly very unfair, you know, that you had grown up with the idea that you were never good enough, that your father always thought, you know, you should be doing something different to what you were doing. You got no support or credit for your own interests and so on, you know? So this is a bit of a common parent behavior, actually, because parents are somehow given the idea that they are wiser and they are, you know, blah 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 than their kids, you know. And I notice that as I'm becoming more experienced at being a daddy, I have to be very careful not to jump in and say, you know, what you're doing is a bit silly, you know, why don't you do it like that or something, you know? Because children are developing themselves, you know, and they have to, if you like, make mistakes. They have to try one way and then find out that you can do it easier another way. And so when you get this sort of weight of authority on top, telling it has to be, you know, this way, this natural the need is somehow not given that place. And I've come situations where people get abused by their parents, but this is pretty much rare, I would say. And much more common is what I'm now talking about, that parents have a sort of strange, or I would consider a wrong idea about being a parent. And rather than giving their kids a kind of safe space in which they can experiment, um, they try to get the kids to do what they think is the right thing to do. And I think when I speak about it as I am now, everybody can easily see that that's not a very good idea. And it's much better to give a kid a space where they feel safe. And inside this safe space, they then investigate life, whatever that means, for example, one of my daughters, I'm sitting actually in the middle of her railway setup. So the table with a TV, with a computer is inside a sort of island, and all around there are train tracks and stations. And the only thing that's not functioning right now is the trains are not actually going around, but they could easily be doing that. And I mean, I look at this girl doing that, you know, and I think, shouldn't she be playing with dolls? Isn't that what girls are supposed to do when they're little girls? They're supposed to play with dollies. And she's not interested much in dollies, almost nothing actually. She's much more interested in playing with her train set. And so I don't know. For me, it's quite easy. And so yesterday I decided I'll buy her some extra stuff for her train, you know, because that's her choice, you know. The other girl, 2 Christmases ago, she told me, "Can you buy me a book on the police? I'd like to be a policewoman," you know. So that's not exactly my idea that I want my daughter to become a policewoman. I mean, I'm sure it's very nice being a policewoman if you're that kind of person, yeah. So I was a bit shocked, and then I went to a toy shop, and I was hoping I would find something else that wasn't a book about the police, you know. But in the end, I felt, oh, sod it, I better buy her the book about the police. So I bought her the book about the police, and she's never mentioned it again, actually. I don't even know if she ever looked in the book. But at least I felt I gave her the chance to become a policewoman, you know. So it's not so easy when your kids want to do stuff you don't want them to do, you know. Anyway. But I mean, this is perhaps really released something you didn't need anymore, you know, some kind of strong old feeling. And many people have commented that you're not really very secure in the fact that actually you're an amazing handyman and very lovely gardener, and you don't have to have any feeling of not being good enough because everybody can find you very good enough. So if that is now kind of working deeper inside, I'm very happy about that. I was there for 2 weeks. You never kissed me. Come on, what is this? Anyway.
Very
Okay.
lovely. This feeling, yeah, very lovely.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Have you been with us to India before? You came one time, I think, yeah? But not, it wasn't
Yes,
last year. It
no,
was a few years ago.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's see. So maybe I read the last, where are we? So he says that after this initial stage of using who am I to get yourself a quiet mind, so now the investigation who am I is used to seek the mind with the mind. So you use your mind to understand that you have this mind, yeah? And then you use the mind to scrutinize closely what the I is. So rather than creating something called I and then looking at it so as for fulfilling the instructions, to closely scrutinize I, seek I, whatever it might be and whether it might exist or not, without harboring any notions as to its existence or non-existence. So this is the number one spiritual practice, you can say. It all comes to this debate. And this investigation, of course, confronts us with whatever our conditioning, because our conditioning gives us a very strong kind of belief in something. I know that, I know that. And so to do this, what he calls scrutinizing closely, what is the I, that is not so, not necessarily so easy. Is there somebody who's been recently doing this who would like to share about it? Because you can help other people, perhaps. So Saraswati's been was living at the moment down in Spain. I'm sure she has a bit of time for finding out who she is.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for me, it's sometimes confusing because when I sometimes come to the point where I'm not functioning anymore. Like I want to talk and then can't talk because I suddenly realize there's something like, oh, but it's not me. So there's something that just stops at some point and it kind of protects or prevents me doing something that I'm not. And it's very confusing sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Can you give an example, maybe? Because I don't get it clear. Because also, unfortunately, I don't know you so well yet. You've been in the community a while, but you've been studying all the time, so we never really met much.
for me, it's a very big thing that I really trust or have this feeling that it's that I'm not really having some knowledge. Just the I has the idea that I have it, and I really enjoy it. Just like to let it out what comes, but not out of this understanding from I possess something and I can give it. It's rather more like natural, or it's rather beautiful to have some natural flow in this.
All right.
And that's the same with when I do some tasks or like just by chance there's something that comes up I seem to understand from like how does life function, and yeah, it's rather more natural and authentic.
Right, right, right. But do you sometimes catch yourself when you're about to assume something and then you see that this is actually all mine, it's all the I talking, and that's not really deep enough? It's not really, how can I say, it's still too much on the surface and it's not really coming from a deep place inside you. And in a way, it's like you learnt this thing and you're just repeating it, something like that. Maybe that's what you meant by authentic, that
Yes.
it can be more authentic.
Yeah, so I have the situation more often, and sometimes I can see that what brings me to this like higher surface and not going deeper. And yeah, for me this feels like getting more into touch with some structures or yeah, what I'm not. So the illusions. It's really like sometimes I can see it. It's an illusion, and but it's rather more like from the mind, and yeah, I'm rather can feel it at the moment from the mind, but not from more deep. But it's
Right,
helpful.
right. But I
I'm
think you're
doing.
some. But isn't it true that you have, in fact, sometimes in a natural way, a deep moments? I get the feeling you have this, not all the time, but you have the capacity that sometimes you get something happen that's very deep for you. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But well, it's
it's a bit strange that sometimes it's not, I can't grab it with my mind. So looking back, I can see it, but then it's really more feels like it's natural. But it's funny sometimes when there is a process in my head, like when I'm more that when I can see it more consciously, then my mind can analyze it in a way. And so it's these both things that I experience sometimes, even touching moments when I look backwards, and the others when I really am annoyed by something and can make a switch by realizing something in this with the mind.
Okay. Okay, so I think let's have a look. So the last bit of this text tonight is in a way the easiest part of it, because like we've got from Buddha or many spiritual masters, that you have to persevere, you have to keep going. And then he says, one day you will reach the summit, you'll reach the top of the mountain, and then you'll have this strange feeling that you've always been there, that there was never anything to get, there was never anything to achieve, that it was already your essence. And that's where often people who have this moment start to laugh a lot, because it's kind of a funny thing, you've been trying to reach the summit, you've been trying to do this practice and that practice and the other practice to reach to the summit. And then when you get to the summit, you realize you were always at the summit, that you always knew it, but somehow, yeah. So we see what Shakti's smiling about, shall we?
I'm just very touched, smiling and touched because I can feel what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe because there was like this moment where I was just laughing and just seeing that this is all just like a play, and I
Right.
already, or I am there already all the time. Then there are just this big walls where I just yeah run against, and I can feel it's a lot of fear which closes back, and then I'm caught up sometimes, and while being caught up I can see the structures, and then there is resistance against this structures because I do not want to have them, because I want to be free and I want to get rid of them. I see them and I'm just like, oh, now.
Yeah. It's interesting that because that you've come on more or less after Krishna, because you should perhaps talk to Krishna, because he has had, and I got it less now, he had something very similar to what you had shared with us. His parents were very much in this mode of making him feel that he wasn't good enough. And I think you didn't have it maybe quite like that. Yours was more like they didn't give you much attention, which is a bit similar, but maybe not quite the same quality. Is that right? And that leaves you with some insecurity about yourself, that it leaves you always a bit insecure that you're okay, when in fact course you are okay. Okay. You're okay now anyway. Very good. You'll probably find Ananda will be rushing in a minute with some tissues for you. And then she'll hold your hand and ask you, are you all right? Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. Mhm. Okay, anybody else like to jump in? If you don't jump in, I'm going to jump out and have my dinner. So it's up to you. Okay. Our favorite sports lady.
So with this self-inquiry and really looking at this I, for me, so I can just like think this thought, I, or just the silence, or like pick out some structures that I notice that come up during the day or things like that. But it feels like that is all things that we do and like putting energy to other things. And yeah, it has to be like a 180 degrees like turn around, but I can't do it because like I can never find this I, So it's a problem.
Okay. Well, in another month, you'll be able to give your focus a bit more onto this difficult question. Yeah.
Mm.
When is your exam?
The 31st of January, probably.
All right. So you could arrive in Tirith for the public meetings.
Yeah, I could.
When I was telling that, I was thinking that maybe your parents would be very happy to give you a ticket to somewhere, and then you could come and visit us in India. Anyway, just a thought, just a thought.
Mhm.
Okay, good. So I'm going to stop now. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And some of you, I'm sure, are having Christmas with your nearest and dearest. But if your festivities are over by the 25th evening, we're starting our retreat to time it with family Christmas and then quieter Christmas. So our retreat is now from the evening of the 25th until Sunday evening. So if that attracts you, then come and spend a bit of Christmas with us. We're going to do all the fun part before you show up, actually. Yeah. We're going to have another cabaret and big dinner and, all that stuff. But that we'll do on, I think is it the 24th, India? We do all that. Okay. Okay, so good night. Good night.